the US dollar. It's more than just a piece of paper, it's a symbol of economic power and global influence. It's the most traded currency on Earth, involved in nearly 90% of all forex transactions. But how did a piece of paper with dead presidents become so powerful? The story is a fascinating journey through history. After World War II, the US was in great shape. Europe, not so much. The continent was devastated and needed rebuilding. The Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944 made the dollar the world's reserve currency. This was a pivotal moment. This meant countries could trade their gold for dollars. It was a win-win. The US dollar was now backed by gold, giving it immense credibility. The US got gold, and other countries got stability. This arrangement fostered international trade and economic growth. This system worked well for decades. The US economy flourished, and the dollar's influence grew. The dollar was backed by gold, and the US economy was booming. This golden era seemed unshakable. But in the 1970s, things changed dramatically. President Nixon took the US off the gold standard in 1971, a move that shocked the world. The dollar became a fiat currency, meaning its value was based on trust, not shiny metal. This was a significant shift. Despite this, the dollar's dominance continued. It remained the preferred currency for international trade and finance. Why? Because the US had, and still has, the largest and most stable economy in the world. Its financial markets are deep and liquid. Plus, oil is traded in dollars, which creates constant demand for those greenbacks. This petrodollar system reinforced the dollar's supremacy. However, nothing lasts forever. The US economy faces challenges, and new contenders are emerging. Countries like China are pushing for their currencies to play a bigger role. The dollar's reign is not guaranteed. Economic shifts and geopolitical changes could alter the landscape. Is the king losing its crown? Let's investigate. The future of the dollar is a story still being written. The US economy is a bit like a giant lumbering beast. It's massive and powerful, but it's also prone to the occasional stumble. This beast has been through a lot, from the Great Depression to the 2008 financial crisis, and each time, it has managed to get back on its feet. Right now, the US economy is facing some serious headwinds. Inflation is up, interest rates are rising, and the national debt is bigger than a Kardashian's engagement ring. These issues create uncertainty. Uncertainty that ripples through every sector, from small businesses to large corporations. And uncertainty makes investors nervous. Nervous investors are like a herd of deer. One sudden movement, and they scatter. When investors get nervous, they tend to pull money out of risky assets, like the US dollar. They seek stability, something that won't keep them up at night. They look for safer havens, like gold or the Swiss franc. These assets are seen as more reliable, less likely to lose value overnight. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There are still bright spots in the economy, areas that show promise and resilience. The US economy still has some major strengths. Our financial markets are deep and liquid, meaning there's always someone willing to buy or sell. We have a deep and liquid financial market, a skilled workforce, and a culture that encourages innovation and entrepreneurship, and a culture of innovation. This culture has given birth to some of the world's most influential companies and groundbreaking technologies. Plus, let's be honest, everyone loves American stuff. Our cultural exports, from technology to entertainment, are in high demand globally. From iPhones to Hollywood movies, the demand for US goods and services remains high. This demand helps keep our economy buoyant, even in tough times. So, is the US economy strong enough to support the dollar's dominance? The jury's still out. There are many factors at play, and the future is uncertain. But one thing is clear, the US needs to get its financial house in order if it wants to keep the greenback on top. Addressing issues like national debt and inflation will be crucial for maintaining economic stability and investor confidence. China, the world's second-largest economy, a manufacturing powerhouse, and a potential challenger to the dollar's throne. China has been steadily increasing the use of its currency, the yuan, in international trade. It has also been pushing for the yuan to be included in the International Monetary Fund's basket of reserve currencies. Why is this a big deal? Because if the yuan gains wider acceptance, it could chip away at the dollar's dominance. Countries might start holding more yuan reserves, reducing their reliance on the dollar. China also has a few other things going for it. It has a massive population, a growing middle class, and a government that's not afraid to throw its weight around. However, the yuan also faces some hurdles. China's financial system is not as transparent or well-regulated as some Western markets. Plus, the Chinese government still exerts significant control over its currency, which makes some investors nervous. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin. Yes, really. These digital currencies have been making headlines. Some people believe they could upend the global financial system and make the dollar obsolete. Here's the basic idea. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized, meaning they're not controlled by any government or financial institution. Transactions are secure and mostly anonymous. This appeals to people who distrust traditional banks or live in countries with unstable currencies. However, cryptocurrencies also have their downsides. Their value can be incredibly volatile. One day, you're a Bitcoin billionaire. The next, you're back to clipping coupons. Plus, they're still not widely accepted as a form of payment. So, while cryptocurrencies might not be replacing the dollar anytime soon, they represent a potential long-term challenge to the existing financial order. It's like that weird rash you got on vacation. You're not sure what it is, but you're definitely keeping an eye on it. Section 5, Expert Opinions. Wall Street weighs in. So, what do the experts think about all of this? Unsurprisingly, they have a range of opinions. Some economists believe that the dollar's dominance is here to stay. They argue that the US economy is still the biggest and baddest on the block, and that there's no real alternative to the dollar. Others are more cautious. They point to the growing strength of China's economy and the rise of cryptocurrencies as potential threats to the dollar's supremacy. They argue that the US needs to address its economic challenges if it wants to maintain its global financial leadership. And then there are those who believe that we're headed for a multipolar world where no single currency reigns supreme. In this scenario, the dollar, the yuan, the euro, and perhaps even some cryptocurrencies would all play significant roles in the global economy. Section 6. Emerging markets. India and the multipolar world. China gets a lot of attention, but it's not the only emerging market making waves. India, with its vast population and rapidly growing economy, is also becoming a major player on the global stage. India's economic rise could further accelerate the trend towards a multipolar world. As India's economy expands, it will demand a greater say in global financial institutions, and may seek to reduce its reliance on the US dollar. Other emerging economies such as Brazil, Indonesia, and Nigeria are also experiencing significant growth. While these countries may not yet be ready to challenge the dollar's dominance directly, their collective rise will contribute to a more fragmented and multipolar global financial system. Section 7. Dollar's destiny, possible future scenarios. So, what does the future hold for the US dollar? This is a question that has been on the minds of economists, financial analysts, and policymakers for years. It's impossible to say for sure, but here are a few possible scenarios that experts have been considering. Scenario 1. The king stays king. In this scenario, the US manages to address its economic issues, such as national debt and trade imbalances, and maintains its position as the world's leading economic superpower. The dollar remains the dominant global currency, continuing to be the preferred choice for international trade and reserves. Scenario 2. A gradual decline. In this scenario, the dollar's dominance slowly erodes as other currencies like the Chinese yuan gain wider acceptance and trust on the global stage. This would be a gradual process taking place over several decades, influenced by shifts in global economic power and geopolitical changes. Scenario 3. A multipolar world. No single currency dominates. Instead, we see a more fragmented system with multiple major currencies, including the dollar, yuan, euro, and perhaps even some cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Which scenario is most likely? Each has its own set of challenges and opportunities. It's too early to tell, and predicting the future of global finance is always fraught with uncertainty. But one thing is certain, the global financial landscape is changing rapidly, and the US dollar's dominance can no longer be taken for granted. The world is watching closely to see how these scenarios will unfold. Section 8. Hedging your bets, what this means for you. Okay, so the future of the US dollar is uncertain. What does that mean for you, the average person just trying to afford groceries and maybe a vacation that doesn't involve a tent? First, don't panic. The dollar isn't going to disappear overnight. However, it's wise to be aware of the potential risks and to diversify your financial portfolio. This could mean investing in foreign currencies, gold, or other assets that are less tied to the US dollar. Second, stay informed. Keep up with economic news and developments in the financial world. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make smart financial decisions. Section 9. Conclusion. The dollar's uncertain future. The US dollar has reigned supreme for decades, but its future is far from guaranteed. The rise of China, the emergence of cryptocurrencies, and the US's own economic challenges have created a more uncertain and complex global financial landscape. While the dollar is unlikely to be dethroned overnight, its dominance is facing unprecedented challenges. The coming years will be crucial in determining the future of the global financial system and the role the US dollar will play in it.